Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is L. Ender's Cataclysm. Today I'm going to be taking you through just about everything that I can think of in order to try and help you accomplish conquering this mod. Okay, our next boss is going to be in the Ancient Factory, which you'll need an Eye of Mech in order to find this one. And it's one of the lesser expensive ones. Actually, most of the eyes aren't that expensive, really. So you can find this place. And I do not recommend that you actually waken the boss until you fought the Wither. You can go there, totally loot the entire place, and leave the boss for when you're ready after you've defeated a Wither. But the Wither itself is required to have been defeated in order to progress, because it will require another star to wake it up. Now that being said, you can go there and loot some Wither skeleton skulls so that you can use that to make yourself a Wither to fight. But as before, recommending all Nether protection for everything that you can put on there. It's a really good idea to have fire resistance as well, because a lot of the enemies in this place are going to be using lasers that will set you on fire. As usual, golden apples are going to be your primary food. Smite is not really going to be that useful. Ranged weapons do have some use, but not too much, because if you're just bringing ranged weaponry for the boss, remember it's like the Wither, it'll only work for half of its health. So it depends if you really want to do that or not. And as it does fly around, your Void Core is going to be not quite as useful as it once was, sadly, because it does not reach the ground very often. A shield will be useful, but it's not going to protect you from everything as well, so be prepared. The factory is going to be filled with lots of little workers called the Watcher. And they've got like these little maws that they have open. They have a couple different attacks. One is to shoot lasers. The other is actually to just come up and start pinching you with their little pinchers. They are both equally annoying, but they're not very difficult to kill. You still need to fight them. They have a decent amount of armor and health, so they are a little bit more of a nuisance. But yeah, without the fire resistance, it would hurt a lot more. As you can see, they do shoot a series of lasers, but not every one of them will shoot lasers. Some of them will actually come up to you and specifically just try and fight you in melee. And yes, there's lots of loot to be had in this place, but you are going to need to fight these guys quite regularly at just about every corner. And then you'll run into a mini-boss almost immediately. It's recommended that you get up close to this guy as quick as possible so that they can't get through the door. And then you just stand here and whittle them down. This is the Prowler. Prowler has 75 health, 10 armor points. It has a saw attack, as you can see here, which if I come out, it will try attacking me with it. But you can easily just back up to avoid that. Otherwise, it has homing missiles that it will shoot out at you. And that's the part that you want to avoid. Just anytime you see the saw coming up, back up. And then if it's got the homing missiles coming out, you're just going to want to make sure to take some cover. You could even use your Void Core to just hit it through there for several hits. That will definitely weaken it considerably. Will you get anything valuable? Not really. Most of these are just machines that will drop some kind of iron or redstone. Most of the loot in this place is going to be up above. You'll find it up in any of these areas here, and it's not to be overlooked. Some of it can be valuable, some of it is just kind of meh, but there are lots of little loot chests and hidden areas that you can find throughout this area. There are also loot rooms that you don't want to overlook either, because they'll have shelves filled with all sorts of valuables or dangers. Now, as you can see, I currently have a whole bunch of skulk overgrowing a lot of the area in here, so it's something that you're going to want to make sure that you clear out appropriately before things get out of hand, but that's not the case most of the time. It's just that it happens at around the same level. And again, there's going to be loot on the upper areas. There's going to be some on some of the sides. Lots of these little guys are going to be kind of buzzing around. You're going to want to clear out all of the nearby mobs just to make sure that you don't have anything sitting around to attack you while you're fighting the boss. And as I said before, don't be afraid to look around, because you'll find some of these Wither skeleton skulls scattered around. At least a couple of them should be throughout here. There may be more depending upon how good or the spawn of the building itself. But that should get you started on making your own Wither so that you can fight it to activate this guy. So So as I've said before, and I'll say again, please be prepared for the Harbinger. It is not an easy boss. It is similar to the Wither, but it has even more devastating attacks than before. If you thought that was difficult, just wait till you meet this guy. You will need another star to wake it up. It has 195 health, has 12 armor, and it is a similar battle to fighting a Wither. You can bring it down to half health with like ranged attacks, but then at a certain point those become ineffective. Waking this guy up, you're going to want to try and hit it as soon as you can, because it will just wreck you. It has tons of Wither damage that it will shoot at you. It does different attacks depending upon what it has available with the laser beams. So make sure to keep your strength up. It will charge at you, and it will constantly destroy the ground around you. So having a bit of speed probably wouldn't hurt if you really want to brew an extra potion or two, just so you can get further away from it. But you're also going to want to be cautious because it has more than just these little puny lasers that it's constantly shooting at me right now. Yeah, that one. Which is not good. It can wreck you very quickly. And you can't always get behind something when that happens. You can try, but it's not always going to be successful. Once you get it down to a certain health amount, it should switch to another mode. But it will also regenerate its health because it's self-repairing. And of course it will throw you, so make sure that you have feather falling on your gear, or else you'll take that extra damage that may just destroy you. And then you also have other options of trying to do this. If you flick one of those levers, you can then stun it for a time and get a few free shots if you're lucky. But it's such a short range, it's something you can't rely on, at least not too easily. Also be aware, it has missiles it can launch at you. It has a large array of weaponry that it can just kind of destroy you with. Now you'll notice that I'm actually using my Infernal Forge in this case. You probably could use an axe instead. It's just that it's usually just out of reach and you can't hit it. So by the time that I can jump and hit this guy and retreat and recover, I am using basically a much stronger to hit weapon than I am this sword. Now this the sword would be fine by itself, but I just wanted to do the bigger hits when I could. Okay, what does this boss drop? It only drops the Witherite block, but when uncrafted can get you Witherite ingots that can be used to make a multitude of different weapons or weapon upgrades, including an anvil. But first let's talk about the weapons you can make. A meat shredder, which is actually really cheap, as well as the Wither Assault shoulder weapon. Both of these are going to be rather useful. You can even make a laser gatling. All three of those can be a lot of fun. The laser gatling I find to be a little bit lacking in its damage, but it is infinite and can be reloaded using a redstone dust for about 50 rounds of ammunition. So it can be nice to have something that can shoot a little bit further than the void core that you may or may not have been using. So let's try these things out. We have the laser gatling. This one here, I have a little bit of redstone in my inventory, so you can see here I'm just kind of shooting and setting things on fire, doing lots of light damage, kind of setting the place on fire, but it can be a lot of fun. You'll notice that there's a durability meter that will just drop, and once that runs down, it will have a reload moment, and then you can shoot again. That reload used up one of my redstone. But the Wither Assault shoulder weapon is a little bit more interesting. This one here has a right click and a sneak right click ability. So if I just right click, it has a wind up animation and it releases kind of a homing missile that does big damage and a little bit of damage in an area, plus leaves a withering effect on those affected by it. So if I sneak and do the same thing, it then does this cluster bomb and takes out a big area, does lots of constant damage. Any of these ones will take you a moment to actually load it up, and then it does have the recharge animation for it to actually kind of come back again. So if you want the homing missile or the really short range effect of the cluster bomb, then you can use those. Personally, I love the meat shredder. This one here does decent damage on itself, 8.5, but you can also enchant that with sharpness, thus giving it a bigger boost and a little bit more effectiveness, similar to a netherite sword, or even a little bit better. It might not be quite as fast, but it's still really good and can be used for one-shotting things. But if you also just hold right-click, it then does a lot of damage in an area in front of you. Kinda goes a bit crazy. And some bosses it can actually kind of tear through or help you to tear through a little bit easier if you're having difficulty. But most importantly, let's go in here. You can make the mechanical fusion anvil. This thing is going to be just like a regular vanilla anvil, but a bit more impressive. You right click to open it and you have 2 slots. You have weapon fusions that you can then make. In here I have a couple that you can choose from. You can take a Gauntlet of Guard plus a Bulwark of the Flame. If you have defeated the Ignis boss, you can use these 2 together to make yourself a special item. That being the Gauntlet of Bulwark, which changes the abilities of the original tools and weapons. In this case, you can upgrade an Infernal Forge with a Void Core, making it a Void Forge. It keeps the same damage, same speed, same harvest level, everything like that. But instead of doing its ground pound around you, it then does a ground pound wherever you hit that kind of shoots out these Void Core bits in a triple. So it's like having both weapons in one, but your area damage is different. And then the Wither Assault shoulder weapon, it just changes it to right click to shoot void howitzers, which are a little bit different as well. It doesn't necessarily increase the damage in all these cases, and some of them it might, but it more or less just kind of changes the functionality and often combines the 2 different items' abilities. So for example, if I put these 2 in here, I then get a Void Forge, and then I can, instead of getting this massive area based around me that would smash things, I then have this massive hammer that I can just right click and do this damage in a wave in front of me. So that would give me a little bit more control over it rather than just everything nearby. But it is reduced damage for those. But then again, they may also be affected by a different slowness effect or something along those lines. You can still use it to like smack mobs and bosses with just a single hit as well. But then again, you do get to see the area that it affects. It's just not quite as far as the Void Core was before. To give an example, that is the normal range of the Void Core, giving you a little bit more to reach than you would otherwise. So it's just really good for reaching that boss that you might need to. But you still can use this one. And then you've got a little bit more area to cover. Now there was one other item that you could potentially use that anvil for, and that's going to be an Ignitium chestplate plus an Elytra. We'll basically combine the 2 to do the same thing. So it'll be a chestplate that can accept an Elytra, and it will still keep the same abilities from that chestplate. Now, as I haven't covered the Ignis boss or the drops or the items that you can make from it yet, that's probably going to be a little confusing, but that is just another item that it can be used for. So that about sums up everything you need for this boss. So let's move on to another one. That's right, there's more parts to this series, so don't stop here. Feel free to click on here once the video is out on the channel. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more videos, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe. Don't be afraid to stop by on Twitch, where we stream regularly. And until next time, I'll see ya.